What's the most ridiculous rule you've heard someone have for their house/family/children? My great uncle only allowed one bowl, one plate, one spoon, one fork, one knife, one cup, one plate, and one light bulb in his house. He was married with 3 kids. He ate first, then the wife, then the kids by age. When he went to another room, the light bulb followed. It fit. Thank y'all for the awards. My wife once had a friend over for a sleepover when she was little. Suddenly, their mum showed up to take them home. Apparently, the friend had seen beer in the fridge and called her mum crying because of it. They were not allowed to look at, talk about, think about, and especially drink beer. Scared her so much that she called her mum to come get her. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time at my best friend's house. Her mom wouldn't let us drink more than 1 glass of water in the afternoon because she thought it would dilute the nutrients in our body. Instead, she gave us 7-Up if we were thirsty. I ended up secretly drinking water out of the bathroom faucet every time I used the bathroom when I was thirsty at her house. No boy and girls in the pool at the same time. Joke's on them, their son grew up gay AF. The kids could not watch Barney because it's a dragon. It was a religious family. Was dating a woman for a couple of months. Nothing seemed off or anything with her, but we took a vacation where we visited both of our immediate families. At her parents' house, we weren't allowed to sit next to each other or stand near one another. Also, we couldn't sleep in the same bed. I had to sleep on the couch and she got the spare room. Their reason was that they didn't want any funny business happening in front of them. We were both 32 at the time. A friend's parents had a pool table. His mom decided to play with us one day, and gave us the house rules. She said, when it's someone's turn to shoot, I tell them, if someone gets ahead of me, they lose their turn. Everyone plays very hard, and in the end, I win. A lady once watched my kids, and the rule was no beverages during a meal. I think she didn't want kids filling up on liquids instead of food. When we were 13, a friend of mine was kicked out of the house by his parents for a week because he stacked things wrong in the freezer, and some bread got squished. He spent the week staying at different friends' houses each night until his parents let him come back home. When my sister was expecting her first boy, I got the baby a little stuffed bunny. Its ears happened to have a floral pattern. She got rid of it because there's no way my boy is playing with flowers. The 12-year-old kid had to wear a shirt and helmet while playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. It was me. I was the kid. Extreme politeness. One of my friend's mom had very strict rules about politeness. I once went to this friend's house as a kid, and she offered me something to drink. I said yes please and thank you once she gave me the drink. The next day at school she told me her mom was upset and wasn't sure if I was allowed to come back. According to her, the mom, I should have said yes, thank you, for offering me this drink, and the thank you again after getting the drink. Both yes please and yes thank you are correct in my language. In the end I was allowed to go back, but that's such a weird reason to be mad at a kid. We also weren't allowed to call something ugly, or say that something tastes or smells bad. Instead we had to say I don't like how it looks/smells/tastes. Small edit to clarify that part. We weren't allowed to use these phrases at all when she was watching us, ever. You accidentally ate some food that went bad? It's not gross, you just don't like it. A common theme I am seeing here is Christianity ruins children's lives. We weren't allowed to interact with anyone outside the family. Mom and dad were afraid of liberals, communists, atheists, Satanists, demons, gay people, and most other religions, so they didn't want to risk us being exposed to the notion of tolerance. In theory, there was an approval process to get around that rule. Basically, my parents had to talk to that person and ensure that they believed all the same things my parents did. In practice, almost no one got through the process, and the few that did disqualified themselves almost immediately once the actual interaction began. Meth heads who wouldn't let their kids watch SpongeBob because bad influence. When I was a kid, my friend's mom was a little nuts. She had a sitting room with a couch and a love seat that nobody was ever allowed to sit on. You had to walk through it to get to the rest of the house, and it led to the kitchen and then the living room. If you sat on the furniture in the sitting room she'd throw a fit. I always felt like it was such a waste to have such a nice room and never use it. It would have been a perfect study room or reading room. She also had other crazy rules, like punishing my friend when his little sister did anything wrong, as if he was responsible for her actions and looking out for her. My stepmom had a totally bonkers rule about feet. She was irrationally afraid of plantar warts and, according to her, anyone she didn't know intimately had plantar warts. As a family we had a second home/beach house that was basically a small bungalow and only had one restroom with one stall shower. Nobody, no friends, relatives, could use that shower after the beach because they'll get their plantar wart all over the floor, and then she'll take a shower and she'll get plantar warts. We also had a swimming pool and she would make new people, including children, wear socks in the swimming pool. And as far as I know, Nobody living in our house including her ever had plantar warts, so. Unreasonable? Sure. Effective? Sure. When I was younger, a friend said that we weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob. I found out later on that, allegedly, this is because the holes in SpongeBob induce lustful thoughts. The kids had to call farts fluffs. I knew a guy who, in his 20s, still had a bedtime enforced. He had to be in bed by 8 p.m., and if he was sleeping over at a friend's house, in this case at my house during my 21st birthday party, he had to phone his dad at 8 p.m. to say he was going to bed. He didn't go to bed though, at least. No Harry Potter. It's unchristian. My parents will swear up and down that none of these actually happened, but they didn't let us watch Rugrats because the way they talk about adults is vile. Picked me up from a sleepover at 1 a.m. and spanked me in front of my friends because they found a picture of Britney Spears hidden under my bunk bed, which led to the only Christian radio station's rule. Grounded me for a month for one episode of Ren and Stimpy, which led to the no Nickelodeon ever house rule. Power Rangers was obviously straight from Satan, so that was out. I brought home some homework about evolution in 7th grade and my dad burned it, and took the ashes to my science teacher. This was when the only God-approved science house rule started. The don't make a single noise after 8 p.m., including the microwave beeping, ever, and tiptoe so you don't get interrogated rule, was unspoken but very well understood. Forced me to wear Jesus shirts to middle school with all my skater friends, which got me bullied for years, which led to the very obvious follow-up rule: if you are told it isn't happening, then it can't possibly be happening. List goes on. Religious folks are fucking weird. My 11-year-old daughter was at a friend's house and my daughter said "oh my God" and then got lectured by the parents for using God's name in vain. My wife didn't have a door on her bedroom until she was a teenager because you shouldn't have to hide anything from your parents. Her mom also would get really upset if she closed her bedroom door at night when she went to sleep. All of the siblings would sleep with doors open. It was a big adjustment for her at first when we got together to sleep with the bedroom door closed. I once went to someone's house and their mom wouldn't let them drink milk unless they watered it down. It was like that for every drink they drank too. Didn't matter if it was milk, fizzy drink, juice, it had to be watered down. My college dorm roommate was on the phone with her mom and her mom said, "Don't share food with your roommate, lol. It's okay, I can live without your Cheez-Its and gummy worms." I would never tell my child not to share. WTF. I was in a friend's kitchen, we were 8, sneezed, then turned and took a kitchen paper tissue from the roll, cleared my nose, and walked toward the kitchen sink door, to throw the wad into the trash bin. My friend burst out, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What?" "Throw away the trash." He continued, "Are you crazy? Snot paper doesn't go in the kitchen trash." Jesus, what if mom found out? I'd already thrown it, but he fished it out of the bin and flushed it in the toilet in under 10 seconds. I already knew his mom was a nasty old battle axe, but I had no idea how deep her will manifested itself in that sick house. My stepbrothers had to use lidded coffee cups for juice and water in the house until they were 20. I mean, yeah, they're disasters and spill everything, but now that I'm a parent, I definitely love my kid more than my carpet. There was a clock above the well-stocked bar with the caption "No drinking before 5" on it. Ironically, all the numerals on the clock's face were 5s. Growing up, my best friend's mom was super Christian and she was so against Halloween that she wouldn't ever let her dress up or go trick or treating or even go to school on Halloween because of all the kids dressing up. She said that it was worshiping the devil. We were never allowed to ask for anything while visiting, even a glass of water. I have a friend whose dad had one paper towel specifically used for eating bagels. You cannot reheat or eat your bagel on anything other than the bagel towel. No plates or bowls were allowed to be used for bagels. You got your turn with the bagel paper towel or you waited till it was free. My house growing up, if you had to go to the bathroom during a family meal, your plate was taken away and dinner was over for you. No bathroom during meals. My friend's grandfather wouldn't let us drink the leftover cereal milk by bringing the bowl to our mouths. We had to finish it off with spoons. It took forever. At my mom's cousin's house, you are not allowed to sleep on the couch. They never had an answer why, just because. My best friend growing up had to walk around her house on her tippy toes because her parents couldn't stand hearing her footsteps. I had a friend in 5th grade and her mother was legitimately insane. She wouldn't let her daughter come to my house because we had carpeting. I think she had some Munchausen by proxy because she was convinced her child was allergic to everything, including dust mites / any innocuous dirt and carpeting. The girl also developed an eating disorder. She was a dancer when we were kids and her mother apparently monitored what she ate extremely closely. I felt so badly for her. We have one. It's not too crazy but a guest might wonder WTF? No singing at the table. My daughter, as a young child, would just start belting out a, totally randomly generated, song while we would try to eat. She would sing it very loudly. We just made the rule that no singing was allowed at the table. If a little friend came over, we'd keep the rule consistent. It applied to us as parents as well. Now my daughter is 16, and every once in a while one of us will start to hum a tune just so the other two can sternly, and mockingly, say no singing at the table. I was 5 and at a friend's house. We were playing in leaves outside. There was a box of leaves. I wanted to move closer to his box of leaves. My box had no bottom, so the leaves spilled out into a small pile. He went and told his mother. She came out and spanked me, quite hard. I ran home crying to my mom, partly because it hurt and partly because of the injustice. She comforted me, but didn't do much else, or so I thought. I learned, decades later, my mom called up the spanker and told her to never lay a hand on any of her children ever again. You can't put a draw 2 on a draw 2 in Uno. Equal Christmas gifts for all the 4 kids, 21 yo, 12 yo, 10 yo and 6 yo, while the house is in absolute ruins. Just one of the girls enjoyed the gift, some MP3 plus earphones, and the rest ignored the gift or broke it very fast. I used a whipped cream can at a friend's house when we were like 8, then went to rinse off all the residue so it wouldn't all dry up into cream chunks. Everyone freaked out like, yeah, we don't do that here. Such a weird little thing, but I could never understand why they would actively discourage it. Maybe they like the chunkies, who knows. People who seriously limit screen time. I had no limitation on screen time as a kid, and because I knew I could play video games whenever I wanted, I didn't pine for them. My friends would want to come over so they could have unlimited screen time, and I would always get bored, like, come on guys, let's go outside. Same with sugary food. One of my best friends wasn't allowed to have it, and when he would sleep over he would eat an entire box of sugary cereal. I thought it was so weird, like, just have one bowl and move on, dude. I went to visit a college roommate's family, and everyone had to go to bed at 8 p.m. because that was the youngest daughter's bedtime. The kid was 8 or 9 years old. I laughed because I thought they were joking, but the kid threw a tantrum that I wasn't going to bed. They weren't kidding. I did, obviously, but WTF? The next day the parents told me it would be best if I just head on back to college a day early. Yeah, no kidding, bye. My roommate thought I was the asshole. I laughed at her too. Growing up, my dad and stepmother gave my sister and I chores that we had to do before we were allowed to go out with our friends. I thought it was normal until I moved out. When I vacuumed, the marks couldn't overlap and they had to go in the same direction. I had to clean the bathroom, wipe everything down including the shower. No water spots allowed. No personal items, shoes, jackets, or bags, could be left in any other part of the house besides your room. We had a sitting room that no one was allowed in that I also had to clean weekly. We had a dishwasher, but I had to do the dishes every day by hand. I had an 11 p.m. curfew even on prom night. After I joined the military and moved away married and had children, I still had the 11 p.m. curfew if I came back to visit. I was in my 30s at this point. Oh, and I forgot to mention I didn't get an allowance for this, so if I wanted money I had to not eat lunch at school and save my lunch money. I also bought all my school clothes from the age of 12 on up, working cropping tobacco in the summer. Buddy of mine had parents who had every room and carpet white. We had to put on socks from them and no drinks were allowed away from the table. Children only had 4 colors to choose from to paint their room. One of those where both parents were cardiac surgeons. Brilliant in practice but absolutely stupid socially. Kids turned out fine cause they had the realization their parents were strange as hell. My dad tells me not to put whipped cream on my coffee BC, it grosses him out. Lol. My parents wouldn't let us say the word fart. During the first and only visit to his house, I was hanging out with a friend of about 12 years old. His younger brother, I'm going to guess about 6 years old, asked their mother the following question: "Mommy, can I have some milk, please?" The mother said, "Come here, baby boy," and she picked him up. He then pulled her shirt down, she corrected him by pulling her shirt up, and he started drinking. It is vividly imprinted in my mind, because as a 12-year-old child, this was one of the sexiest and grossest things I could have ever conceived of, happening directly in front of me. Luckily, I was able to keep a straight face, and it only lasted for about 20 seconds. My friend acted like nothing was amiss, and he just kept on with the conversation, which horrified me but also helped me pretend it wasn't happening. So I guess a lack of rules was the weird rule? It just seemed like an odd thing to do in front of a first-time visitor. I will also say that I was blown away that a 6-year-old was still breastfeeding, and it has stuck with me for many years until this very post at this very moment. Apparently, according to a 2-minute Google, nursing until that age isn't all that strange, around the world. And hashtag X200B. And hashtag X200B. Another one is that my mill has trained each of her pets, cats and dogs, to wipe their asses on an ass cleaning mat every time they poop. It's completely practical, but also hilariously ridiculous. No Pokemon or any other related card like fun a child should have. She was polite about it but had me leave my binder outside the house. My friend's mom won't allow him to sit on their couches. The couches were for the guests. Not just in the household, but they enforced it even when we're not in their house. We can't say something is stupid or dumb because that's bad to say. But the dad will actively cuss and say the most homophobic and insensitive boundary-crossing shit you can think of. We also can't say that his kids are sensitive and have a lot of emotion. But he will just laugh when the kids get so angry from not knowing how to express their feelings and they end up hitting and screaming at adults. Cute animal filter while taking selfies are a big no. Girly colors are out of the question. Wild to me. They're Catholics before you wonder. My brother-in-law doesn't allow any kind of swearing around his 2 daughters. I mean, I can even say ass. However, he doesn't have a problem telling his daughter that brown boys are naughty, so racism equals fine. Mild swearing equals no. My Phil forbade my wife, and tried to forbid my 2 children, from driving once they passed their driving test. His wisdom was put that piece of paper, driving license, in a drawer for 5 years to reduce the amount of insurance they would pay. Spoken like he was passing down the knowledge of the ancients. Fucking idiot. No reading stories with any kind of witchcraft in them. No Wizard of Oz, no Harry Potter, no Winnie the Witch, not even the BFG. Because magic is voodoo and anti-Christian. This kid had to leave the classroom whenever magic of any kind came up. Growing up, my wife's family was incredibly close with a family with 5 siblings and they did everything together, including holidays. Their father died, and wife's family helped raise the kids. Over time, the siblings each moved away, then the mother, until there was only one left, M. Emma's family and still came over for all holidays. He is a vegetarian/vegan, and always brought a tofurkey and side dish, so just the easiest guest to accommodate. My brother-in-law and his wife had 2 kids and bought their own big house, so they invite us over for their first time hosting Thanksgiving. The rule? M was not invited because he was not family. It caused a huge fight and we ended up not going over there, so M wasn't left alone. It was a fight every year until finally they stopped inviting us all together. When M went to his wife's family for Thanksgiving one year, we still didn't go to brother-in-law's. A woman with 2 teenage daughters will only pay for their college if they don't date or have boyfriends. One of my best friends growing up had super Christian parents. My group of friends loved playing Diablo 2. We would spend weekends at each other's houses for LAN parties. If we ever went to super Christian house, we were not allowed to play Diablo 2 because it included the devil in the game. No matter how many times we explained that the goal of the game was to kill the devil, they would just dig their heels in even more. Does the poop knife count? I once went over to a friend's house when I was younger and she lived with her mom and grandma. We were eating Thin Mints and my friend didn't want the rest and offered them to me, so I ate M. Velp. Turns out the grandma saw me eat her Thin Mints and proceeded to yell at me and what an awful greedy child I was. I was 11. When I told my parents about it, I wasn't allowed over to her place anymore. My nephew wasn't allowed to use the trash can automatic or flush the toilet. They say it's cause he used them inappropriately, but I'm like, how is he gonna learn to use them appropriately if he is banned from easing? My ex Phil had a rule that once he sat down for a meal, only his wife and grown children could get him anything he needed from the kitchen. He would not stand up. My aunt once told me we don't say hate in this house. Carol, I hate to break it to you, but your kids are hearing way fucking worse things than hate in their high school, probably daily. My best friend/roommate in college was 100% dependent on his parents financially. He paid for everything with a credit card, which his parents paid for, and he kept every receipt and mailed them back home at the end of the month. They were incredibly overbearing and controlling. When they would come visit, they'd get a room at a hotel and he had to go stay with them in their room because they wanted to see their baby boy every minute of the day during their visits. It was so odd. When I was a kid we used to play a game called Tunnels and Trolls. It was basically a cheap Dungeons and Dragons ripoff, and one of our friends with ultra-religious parents wouldn't let him play because troll is Swedish for devil. To this day I have no idea whether that's even true. One of my friends growing up lived next to this other kid who I didn't really know or hang out with. I always wondered why we all three never hung out. I asked my friend one day and he said he didn't like the guy. Upon asking him why, I understood. The kid's parents had a rule where he could only have one friend. They decided for him that my friend would be his only friend. I don't know why and I never asked. Weird. My friend's parents ran a tab for him and his brother. They added up how much they spent on food, clothes, sports, etc. and told the 2 boys that's how much they would have to pay them back. I remember once we got yelled at for eating his dad's snacks and he added it to the tab. When they graduated, the parents cleared the tab for their graduation gift, so basically they got nothing other than a reminder of how much they cost. When I was a kid, my best friend's mom wouldn't let us walk anywhere in the house except for on designated paths. Supposedly she didn't want us messing up the vacuum trails left on the carpet after you vacuum. Basically she wanted her house to always look like it had just been vacuumed. But the carpet looked even worse than it would have looked had she just let us walk everywhere, since there were very visible trails leading to each room and to the couch and kitchen.